If I was starting a one person automation business from zero today, the first thing I would do is stop trying to build anything. No workflows, no AI agents, nothing. Because here's what I see happen over and over again with beginners. They spend weeks learning a tool, they build a workflow nobody asked for, and when they try to sell it to a business owner, nothing sells. And they blame the niche, they blame the tool, or they blame the timing. But the real problem is that they built before they sold. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 30-day plan that I would follow if I was starting this business today from complete zero. Just a clear process that actually works. Because there's a lot of noise in this space, and most of it is not geared towards actual beginners. It's not built from people who are starting from scratch. So let's get into it. Here's what happens if you skip what I'm about to tell you. You're going to spend 60 days, 90 days learning automation tools. You build something that looks impressive to you. You reach out to a business owner, and when you try to explain AI automation or you explain the workflow systems that you've built, they just look at you like, what are you talking about? They ask you almost as if you're speaking a different language. Because business owners who own these service based businesses or any other business you're pitching to, they don't think in systems, they think in problems. They're thinking, how many missed calls did I lose? Why am I getting leads that aren't qualified enough to pay for my services? Why are my customers not leaving a review? Those are real, painful, expensive problems. And if you can connect what you sell to one of those problems in plain English, you have a business. If you can't, then you have a hobby. You're just building automations because you find them fun to do, but you're not actually delivering any measurable outcomes for people. And the 30-day plan that I'm about to give you is built around one principle: sell the outcome, build the system after. Think about it this way: a local service business owner, maybe a roof, is on the job 2 p.m. in the afternoon. His phone rings, he can't answer the phone. He's on somebody's roof somewhere in the middle, in the middle of the day, and he's getting a phone call from someone who actually wants a quote, right? But because he's busy on the job, he's not able to pick up the phone call, right? But that same client calls another roofer who's able to pick up the phone. That roofer is the one who gets the job. And that roofer is the one who makes the sale to the client. The roofer you're talking to just lost that job. And there are three more missed calls that he didn't answer. Now that is a real problem, and that is money. But does that roofer care about AI? No. Does he care about whatever workflows you've built in whatever system? No, he doesn't. He doesn't care about the automation. He cares about losing jobs because he couldn't answer the phone. So your job as a one-person automation business is not to sell him technology. It's to tell him whenever you miss a call, a text is automatically sent out to the client within 60 seconds that says, hey, I missed your call. What's your address? I can get you a quote. And the client will respond, right? That he understands and that he'll pay for. That is actually the business. And so this is a one-person business framework that you can use in 30 days to go from someone who just wants to sell automation to someone who's actually paid. Your only job in week one is to have conversations with local business owners, not to build anything, not to learn a new tool, just conversations. You're looking for one thing: what is costing them money right now that's predictable and repeatable, right? Here's how I would do it. I'd pick one niche: HVAC, roofing, plumbing, cleaning, whichever one, doesn't matter, just pick one. And I'd find 20 businesses in that niche in your area on Google Maps. And I'd just send them a simple message or walk in physically. Set some time aside, go into the store physically and ask them one question, right? What is the biggest operational headache in your business right now? The thing that keeps, falling through the cracks, where you're missing customers, where you're having issues. And you have to remember, you're not pitching, you're listening. You will hear almost every time some version of, I'm not getting qualified leads, I'm not getting clients that can afford my services, or I can't fulfill all the services that I have, or I'm losing leads because of follow-up, right? You're not pitching them, you're listening. You want to write down exactly word for word what they're saying. This is your market research, and this is your offer language, right? This is worth more than any course you could actually buy. The mistake here is going in with the solution before you know the problem, right? You'll pitch the wrong thing to the wrong person and you'll be wondering why no one is buying. You have to understand that at this point, the words that they're giving you is what will become the backbone for your sales script. The conversation should be 90% of you listening and 10% of you actually speaking. And that speaking is asking questions. And week two is where you actually build the offer. This is around the time where you actually have a real problem from real conversations that you've had. Now you build the offer. In plain English, before you touch any software, here's a simple framework that I use for offers. problem, which is the problem the client is experiencing, what you do, which is your mechanism to solve that problem, and what they get, which is the outcome they'll receive through the mechanism that you use to solve that problem. For example, you miss calls, you lose jobs. The competitor who picks up is the one who gets those jobs. What you do is set up an automatic text that responds within 60 seconds, and that client contact is initiated with that client. They get more booked jobs, more leads to respond, and less revenue lost due to missed calls. And that's the offer. Just three sentences that a business owner can understand immediately. The problem, what you do, and what they get. You want to keep it simple and be able to use it like an elevator pitch. Now, week three is about outreach and conversations, not a cold email blast or ads or anything crazy, but this is where you scale the real conversations that you're having, right? This is the outreach method I'd use as a beginner with no portfolio, right? You can send out a Loom audit. You can find local businesses and do an audit on their situation. Look at their missed calls, look at their Google review count, look at their website, look at their lead response time on Google Maps. You can record now a 3 to 5 minute Loom video walking through what you noticed and what you'd fix about their business, right? You could send it with a message. You could say, or even before you do the Loom audit, you could say, hey, I notice your business is missing some low hanging fruit, when it comes to your follow ups, when it comes to your leads. I put together a quick 4 minute breakdown of what I'd fix. No pitch, just useful, happy to show you if it's relevant. Ship that off to them, and that's it. You're leading with value. You're showing that you actually looked at their business and you have an understanding of what they do and what they need. You're not asking for anything up front. Now, most people won't respond, but some will. And the ones that do are already warm, and they're the ones that you need to follow up to make sure that you convert that into an actual paying client. And this is not a numbers game where you send to 500 people and you're hoping and fingers crossed. This is more of a quality game where you show up as someone who actually understands their business. And once you have a closed deal, a yes from someone, now and only now is when you start building. I personally use Go High Level and Claude to handle my fulfillment. This is where GHL becomes a tool that makes the whole thing work. And the reason I use Go High Level for this is it's an all-in-one tool, and I can leverage Claude. And when I leverage Claude, there's basically nothing that I can't do on the platform. That's also the reason why I teach it in the Automation Lab, my free community. It's built exactly for this use case because you're not duct taping 5 different tools together. You're building the pipeline, reactivation workflow, reputation management, review management, follow-up sequences, everything all in one place. And for a beginner, that matters because the simpler your stack, the easier it is to fulfill consistently. You don't want operational complexity, especially if you're going to be building this as a one-person business. It's easier to explain to clients and it's easier to scale whenever you're ready. So in 4 weeks, it's your job to set up the client's Go High Level sub account, build the workflows, set up the basic follow-up sequences, and test everything before you go live. And then you just show the client what is running and why it's running. The delivery doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work. It has to be what's explainable. They just need to see the text that goes out whenever they miss a call. That's it. That's the win. You don't want to overbuild because the biggest fulfillment mistake beginners make is adding features that the client never asked for, right? You want to start with what you promised, deliver that cleanly, and then add more later once the relationship is more established. Let me be real with you for a second about what actually holds most beginners back. The first thing is waiting until you feel ready. You will never feel ready. The confidence comes from actually doing the reps, right? Having the conversations, running those Loom audits, getting on the calls. There's no amount of learning or watching YouTube videos or courses that will replace that. The next thing is trying to sell AI to a business owner. The word AI means nothing to a roofer or a plumbing company. It actually might make them more skeptical of you, actually, right? What you want to do is you want to sell the outcome. You want to sell them lost revenue recovery, right? You want to sell them missed call leads. You want to sell them a reactivation of past clients, right? Outcomes that they can quantify, right? Reviews requested without them lifting a finger, right? A better Google business profile. That's what you want to sell. That that's the language that you want to use. The next thing is picking a broke niche. Not every business owner can afford a monthly retainer. Businesses like barbershops, restaurants, small boutiques, they have tight margins and high stress and a low budget, right? So you want to stick to trade businesses that have the bandwidth to be able to afford your services, right? And that have real revenue with real operational problems and real budgets. Another thing is building a portfolio before you have a client. You don't need case studies to get your first client, right? You just need a clear off a Loom video that shows you actually understand the problem, and you need to stop waiting for proof and actually do the results. That's just not how it works, right? The people who win in this space are the ones who stay consistent for a long period of time, 60 to 90 days, and everyone else quits after 2 weeks of no results. So, if you're ready to start a one person automation business, here's what I would do exactly this week if I was starting today. I'd pick one niche, I wouldn't change it for 30 days. I'd find 20 businesses in that niche on Google Maps, and I would send gen outreach messages today or walk in, not pitches, but just outreach that is conducting market research, just questions about their biggest operational headaches. And I'd write every pain point down word for word because you're going to use that verbiage for your sales scripts, right? And then you're going to build an offer statement in 3 sentences: the problem, what you do, and what they get, right? Record your first Loom audit for your first business that you can actually help, and start to gauge the feedback from there. And that's it. No complicated systems on the front end, no workflows, just conversations and clarity. And if you want the scripts, the outreach templates, the Loom audit framework, and a free trial to go high level, and all the information that you need to get your first client, all that is inside the Automation Lab. It's my free community, and you can join it. If this gave you a clearer picture of what this business actually looks like, the unglamorous practical version that actually works, I'd love to have you inside the Automation Lab. It's my free community where I document exactly what I'm building with my automation business Lead Ready, sharing these systems that work with real local businesses and teaching beginners how to turn automation skills into actual revenue. The scripts are in there, the outreach templates are in there, and when it's time to build and deploy, I have my Go High Level snapshots as well as free trial links so you can start building alongside the workflows that I teach. The link is in the description. It's free. Just join it. And if you find this video useful, just do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I put out practical content on automation every single week. No hype, just the real stuff.